These are some things that you want to have done before someone breaks in. They aren't in any particular order. You want to buy a handgun and keep it on your person at all times. I'll come back to this and talk about it in more detail later. You want to learn the laws that apply to self-defense, specifically your state's laws. You should get together with your family members and find which room in your house is the most easily defendable. This room you will designate the safe room. If an intruder breaks in, this is the room that you will all meet in. It would also be a good idea to discuss with your family members what is the least startling and the quietest way to wake them up if they are sleeping and an intruder breaks in. You should also make sure your house is very secure to prevent an intruder from being able to break in the first place. I have a home security video where I describe exactly how to do this. Finally, it would be a good idea to buy electronic earmuffs. You can turn up the volume to hear whispers and they automatically block out the sound of gunfire. I'm going to use this study to state the obvious. If you avoid confronting the intruder, you are more likely to lose property, but less likely to lose your life or get injured. Though it may be necessary to confront the intruder when a family member's life is in danger. In this study, there was a very small amount of home invasion victims who actually used guns in self-defense. This is likely due to a combination of two things. Home invasions are fast, and people don't always keep their guns handy. When your home is actively being invaded, the first step should be always to draw your handgun. A handgun is the primary home defense tool because you can have it on you basically 100% of the time. After that, you want to deal with any intruders who are an immediate threat. An example of an immediate threat is an intruder actively threatening or pistol whipping a family member in another room. Then, if necessary, wake up your family members quickly and bring them to the safe room. Whether or not you have already had to defend yourself, expect to run into another intruder during this part. Remember, you likely don't know how many intruders there are or where they're moving in the house. After that, barricade yourself and your family in the safe room. If you have a rifle or a shotgun, now would be the time to pick it up and keep it ready in case an intruder kicks down the safe room door. Then you should call 911. Tell the operator your address and repeat it. State the fact that you are the victim of an active home invasion and tell the operator what room of the house you are in. Tell them that you are armed and that you'll put down your gun when the police get there. Stay on the line to make sure it's really the police knocking on the door of your safe room and not an intruder impersonating the police. Make sure to not leave the safe room because you may be mistaken by the police for an armed intruder. There seems to be somewhat of a debate about whether or not you should shout the fact that you have a gun to the intruder once you are in your safe room. Some people believe that you should loudly rack a shotgun or shout the fact that you have a gun in an attempt to scare away the intruder. Announcing your presence in this way gives up the element of surprise and exposes your location in the house. This strategy requires multiple things to be effective, however. The intruder has to actually believe you have a gun. He has to believe that you have the intent to use that gun on them. He has to be thinking rationally. A person disassociated from reality due to drug use or mental illness is obviously excluded. Finally, the intruder or intruders also have to be not willing to have a gunfight with you. If any of these requirements are not met, you will likely have achieved nothing. The other option we have is to stay quiet while inside your safe room. I believe this is the best option for two reasons. The first reason being that you have the advantage of surprise if the intruder manages to break down the safe room door. Second of all, by avoiding confrontation until the last possible minute, you have given the police and EMS the most amount of time available to get there. This is very important because if you get badly injured during a gunfight, the sooner you get medical care, the more of a chance of survival you have. Some people would argue that announcing your presence and the fact that you have a gun would prevent a case of mistaken identity. This first case involved the father mistaking his daughter for a home intruder, and because of this, he shot her. The second case is a similar one. A husband mistook his wife for an intruder and shot her. The only way to guarantee these tragedies don't happen is to determine whether or not a person is actually a threat before you shoot them. Announcing your presence can definitely help, but it's not a guarantee. You can also be mistaken for a home intruder by the police. In this case in particular, the homeowner did basically everything wrong. This obviously doesn't make it okay for the police to shoot him on sight, however. If you decide to leave your house because you believe there are intruders inside, you should go to a neighbor's house and ask them to let you in so you can call the police. The police can then clear your house, and you can then approach them unarmed. Likewise, if you come home and you realize that your front door is kicked in, you should never go inside and try to clear your house by yourself. Let the police make sure your house is safe. It is their job after all. Obviously, being forced to defend yourself is both physically and legally dangerous. Also, the police rarely get there in time to protect people from the intruders. This is why I would stress that you should make sure your home is as secure as you can to reduce the chance of a home invasion happening in the first place. Some intruders will knock on your door and push their way in when you open it. This specific case was an attempted home invasion and not a successful one because the homeowner did not open his front door. He saw through his security camera that these two suspects were armed and clearly intending to rob him. Thankfully, the suspects left after about a minute of repeated knocking, and no one was hurt. The top case could have been easily avoided as well. If I heard a knock on my front door at 1:40 in the morning, I'm going to assume that the person on the other side of that door is going to try to rob me. The fact that these people live in Detroit and don't know any better is amazing to me. The homeowner made a major mistake in opening the door. Also, if he had the foresight to leave the steel bar door locked, he wouldn't have had to risk his life and got shot just to hold the door shut. This is also an example of why you should be prepared for an intruder to shoot through your door at you. Obviously, before you open your front door, you should look to make sure it's actually someone you know. This is why it's important to have either a peephole or a security camera. The bottom case tells a similar story. The homeowner opens the door, sees masked men with guns appear from the shadows, and quickly closes the door. I should also mention that this would have not had such a happy ending if the intruder with the shotgun knew that he could breach that door open. For this case, I want to start off by saying that this homeowner demonstrated excellent restraint. He gave the intruders a chance to escape and successfully avoided having to fire his weapon. The screws that were in the door frame and the locks on the door were clearly not strong enough, as they were defeated with one kick. The homeowner also only had 5 rounds in his rifle. Thankfully, both of these problems had easy fixes. There was a major blunder done by the homeowner's unarmed friend, however. He left the safety of the apartment and ran out into the hallway. Some people have an instinctual response to chase or to shoot a fleeing intruder. Doing either of these things is a bad idea in my opinion. If you chase an intruder, for example, you're likely leaving a relatively safe room and blundering into an unknown situation where you could be potentially surrounded by intruders. As for shooting a fleeing intruder, this is not legal advice, but it seems like it would be pretty illegal as well as morally questionable. I would personally consider anyone who is running away to not be an immediate threat. There was also an interview where this person who had defended himself, whose name is Mark, where he explained the security upgrades he had done to his apartment. One of the things he did was get a Ring doorbell. This is a good idea because if the door had been kicked in while he was looking through the peephole, that really would have hurt. He also upgraded his locks. Finally, Mark was looking to get a shotgun to use for home defense instead of an AR-15. From what I gathered, this was because someone told him that 5.56 will go through a lot of walls, but a shotgun round won't. I proved this theory wrong in my overpenetration video. So this is also an example of why you shouldn't take Mark's word as gospel just because he had to defend himself and you didn't. There is a common belief that shotguns are unacceptable for home defense because an intruder could use your family member as a hostage. The conclusion being that because of how wide the shotgun pellets will spread at X distance, you will not be able to shoot the bad guy without hurting the family member. I've seen the details of many home invasions. Situations where the intruder actually used someone as a human shield are pretty rare. These are the two cases that I did manage to find. In both of these cases, the intruder is much stronger than the victim, and the victim is kept in a headlock. Given how rare these cases are, there are much more relevant criticisms of shotguns. For example, you can't have a full-size shotgun on your person all the time like you can with a handgun. Also, if you have smaller or weaker family members, it may be difficult for them to handle the recoil of a 12-gauge shotgun. It's much more likely that the intruders will make you lie down on the floor at gunpoint. I say this because I found 5 of these cases. The intruders in the second case seem to be former neighbors that were evicted due to drug activity. The home invasion seems to have been a form of retaliation against these neighbors that reported the drug activity. These 2 cases involve the victims having their hands zip-tied and forced to lie on the floor. The first case was interesting because it seemed to be relatively well planned. The intruders had the skill to pick a lock to enter. They also had the foresight to put tape over the Ring doorbell camera. Both of these things are unusual for the average home invasion. Again, this case involved victims being forced to lie down. However, it ended differently because the intruders ran off when the mother pulled out a handgun and shot at them. Unfortunately, she hesitated before she fired. Such a mistake could have easily ended her life and possibly the lives of her family members. What was probably the biggest blunder was not preventing the invasion in the first place. The front door was unlocked, and the friend that entered the house was oblivious to the intruders lying in wait outside. These are a few methods that intruders may use to get inside your house. They may follow you home. These follow-home robberies made a lot of news when they first became popular. The intruders can hide outside your house until you leave or enter the house. They can knock until you open the door and push their way in. They may also pose as someone asking for directions or delivering a package, for example. They may just kick down your door, though. This may or may not involve them knocking on your door to see if you are home first. Follow-home robberies seem to be mostly preventable because it's not hard to tell if someone has been following you. If you're paying attention, it's easy to notice that the same vehicle has been following you the entire way from the grocery store. If you make 3 consecutive right-hand turns and a car is still following you, it's safe to assume that they're up to no good and you should call the police. You should definitely avoid pulling over or going home until the police arrive and tell you it's safe. It's also a good idea not to flaunt your jewelry or cash because it will attract unwanted attention. I mentioned before that there was a chance that if you yell, "I have a gun," the intruder may not believe you, or they may decide to attack you anyway. The case on top involved an intruder who broke into a house that was occupied by an 11-year-old boy who had a gun. The intruder apparently didn't believe the gun was real because he threatened to kill the boy. The intruder found out later that the pistol was in fact real when the boy shot him with it. Likewise, the bottom case involved a mother shooting into the air to scare away an intruder in her backyard. The intruder ignored the shots and orders to leave. Instead of leaving, he started to slowly walk towards the mother. He was then shot by her adult son. Here are 2 more similar cases. The first one involves a convicted sex offender who nearly killed a sheriff's deputy during a routine traffic stop. This event triggered a manhunt for the criminal. What finally ended the manhunt was when the criminal died in a gunfight with a homeowner during a home invasion. Despite being a felon, this criminal had obtained multiple guns. This should also show you how effective gun control can be. I would say this felon knew he didn't have much to lose anymore, and he was not afraid to die in a gunfight. The bottom case involved 3 teenage intruders who kicked in the back door of a home. The mother inside said she had a gun. The intruders clearly didn't believe her, and said as much. So she fired once, and they ran away. However, one intruder that was armed with a fake gun decided to come back. The mother fired another round, and the intruders left for good this time. Obviously, some intruders do immediately leave when you confront them with a gun, but you should always be prepared if they decide they want to have a gunfight instead. This is why I said before that you have to be quiet to deny the intruder the element of surprise. There is a significant problem that will happen if you do not have an alarm system and your family members sleep with their bedroom doors locked. Knocking on a bedroom door loud enough to wake up a family member will likely alert the intruder of your location. In a home invasion, it's obviously dangerous to leave a family member sleeping in an unsecured bedroom. Almost all inside doors can be quickly broken with a single kick. If you're serious about stopping the threat outside your bedroom, you need to have a sturdy metal bedroom door and quick-release window bars. If the intruder tries to break inside that room, that family member will certainly wake up to all that noise. If you have just a sturdy bedroom door but no window bars, you've created a situation where you can't protect that family member from an intruder that enters through the window. In an ideal world, you'd have both quick-release window bars and a sturdy metal door that separates the rest of the house from the bedrooms and the purpose-built safe room. There is also a chance that the intruders can pose as law enforcement. If you hear your door get kicked down and you hear someone say "police," that can create uncertainty and hesitation. Just a few seconds of hesitation is all that is needed for the intruders to run into your house and hold you at gunpoint. I think one of the best ways to mitigate this problem is by having security cameras and a sturdy door. If it takes a while to break down your door, that can give you enough time to arm yourself, look at the camera monitor, and realize the people trying to break down your door are probably not police because they don't have badges and are wearing ski masks. I should also mention that someone you know may betray you. You may have someone in your life that is a friend of a friend, and you may not know them that well. They might have an expensive addiction or gang affiliation that you do not know about. These cases both involved one of the intruders knowing the victims. The bottom case is a reminder that your neighbors may target you. In the top case, one of the intruders was highly trusted by the victim. This intruder had children that went on playdates with the victim's children. This sort of home invasion that is done with insider knowledge or help is common in South Africa. Rudolf Zinn interviewed 30 perpetrators of aggravated robbery in South Africa. He used this information and the resulting insights to write his book, Home Invasion. Obviously, home invaders in South Africa may behave differently than the American ones. Zinn found that in 91% of home robberies, a person well known to the victim gave information to the robbers. This is a large percentage for a reason. Inside information is one of the main factors that robbers use to decide which house to rob. Robbers know that home invasions are very dangerous, and this is why 83% of robbers say that careful planning is important. 77% of robbers have information about either the house or the potential victims beforehand. Insider information followed by affluence or noticeable wealth are the top two deciding factors for robbers. Robbers also prefer neighborhoods with multiple access roads, nearby highways or main roads, and a lack of visible security. However, if the neighborhood is too secure and the risk too high, the robbers will likely find a different house to target. It was extremely common for these robbers to wait outside the victim's house and strike whenever someone opened the front door or gate. Some of these robbers break into the house and wait for the victim to exit the bedroom section of the house before they strike. Finally, I should have included this door chain in my home security video, but it is equally appropriate here. It's important to have a heavy-duty door chain in case the person at your door is going to try to force their way in. Most door chains are flimsy and easily broken. This one is much stronger. Just make sure that you install it horizontally and not vertically. In conclusion, I would say that the fundamentals of successfully defending your home are staying vigilant, locking your doors, and keeping your firearm immediately available. If you want to know more, these are all 41 of the attempted or successful home invasions I looked at. I doubt many people are interested in all of them, so I'll just show them quickly.